You are about to hear the best running back rankings for all of fantasy football. These rankings will help you win your league, best ball, redraft, dynasty. These are 20 running backs at the top of draft boards. Not the usual draft boards, not the consensus media, the top of your draft board, because you're going to know what running backs to pick, what guys are overvalued, and who to be taking at every selection. Running back number one, and this already is different than the sheep. The sheep, ESPN, has this player at pick number 4 of ADP. They're wrong. This guy should be the RB1. They have him as RB2. It's Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, there shouldn't really be any debate right here. Now, we're going to talk about the second guy in a second, but Saquon Barkley had his best year in 2024. Now, you might be saying, his rookie year, he had 24.1 PPR points per game. Technically, that was his best points per game season. But how was that his best points per game season? He averaged 7.6 targets per game in that year. He averaged 2 targets per game in 2024. So he averaged 130 rushing yards per game in 2024. He had almost a touchdown every single game. This guy destroyed fantasy football. He had 22.2 PPR points per game in 2024. He was fully healthy for the first time in what seems like forever. I actually expect Saquon, the reason I like Saquon as the RB1, right? I expect his receiving numbers to potentially bump up. His receiving numbers were the worst from his career, if you can believe it. He had about 4 targets per game for the last 4 years in New York, and that was a bit volatile. Sometimes it was closer to 5, but let's just say he had 4 targets per game and about 3 receptions per game. With Philadelphia, those numbers were cut in half almost. Now, the reason I think those can go back up is because guess what? The Eagles have a tougher schedule this year. There ain't no more Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Now you're playing the tough competition. Saquon Barkley could be more involved. I like him as my RB number 1. RB number 2 is the guy that ESPN has at ADP of 2, pick number 2, and RB number 1. It's Bijan Robinson. Now, don't get me wrong. If I get Bijan Robinson, usually I get him around pick number 6, if I'm lucky. Usually pick number 5, pick 4, 5. You can even see this guy going pick number 2 in a lot of your best ball drafts. But Bijan Robinson, he did have a very good season. Specifically, a very good end to the season. He finished the year very, very strong. He brought his average up in his second year of his career, up from 14.4 PPR points per game all the way up to 20 points per game to finish out the year. Now, his final couple of weeks, he had 31 points the final week of the season against Carolina. He had 25 points against Washington, 24 points versus New York, 15 versus Las Vegas, 20 versus Minnesota, 26 versus Los Angeles. Those were the final 6 weeks of 2024. So he was over 20 points per game the entire final 6-week stretch, which is definitely something that builds momentum and builds some confidence heading into 2025. Now, rookie quarterback, I'm calling him a rookie because Penix didn't have that much action last year, although we did see, obviously, Bijan did kind of thrive with Penix there in at quarterback the last couple of weeks. I think that Bijan Robinson still will be somebody that returns value, somebody that is a safe pick. I just like Saquon a little bit more, but Bijan as my RB2 definitely seems like the right spot to be ranking him. RB number 3, here it is. We got Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is somebody I love. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, could outscore Saquon. I think Jahmyr Gibbs could outscore Bijan. Now, the thing about Jahmyr Gibbs, I think Jahmyr Gibbs might be just as good as those two, first of all, if not better. That's why I like him so much. But the problem is you got David Montgomery, the pest right there. And David Montgomery specifically will be taking a lot of the goal line work from Jahmyr Gibbs. So the red zone touchdown upside, I don't like as much. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs did have more touchdowns per game than Bijan Robinson in 2024. So, I mean, he still definitely gets his share, but if we look at the snap percentages, he's more around 56% of the snaps, whereas Bijan is up at 76, and obviously Saquon is up there as well. So Jahmyr Gibbs did have 21.3 fantasy PPR points per game if Montgomery misses any time, which we saw Montgomery miss time, and Jahmyr Gibbs can be the number 1 player in fantasy football without David Montgomery. The receiving upside is obviously there, and the concern is, what if the departure of the OC, Ben Johnson, what if that hurts this Lions room? Jahmyr Gibbs will be just fine. Just trust me, man. I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs everywhere I can, even with the pest of David Montgomery. I'm not worried at all. Number 4, and this is a big one. Number 4, I have Ashton Genty. I'm a bit more aggressive on ranking Ashton Genty this year. The reason being, this is the most NFL-ready running back prospect we've seen in quite some time. What people forget, yes, Ashton Genty had his 2,000-plus rushing yard season, his final college season. He only had like 100 receiving yards that year. So people are like, oh, this guy's not going to be good in a PPR format. Ashton Genty, the year prior, had 600 receiving yards in one season. Make no mistake, Ashton Genty is somebody that can be involved in the receiving game. He's competing against who? Sincere McCormick? Like, the trash. Get it. Zamir White? Trash. I don't even know who it is. Nobody. Ashton Genty will be the workhorse. He will be this focal point, along with Brock Bowers, of the Las Vegas Raiders offense. Genty's going to be somebody that's very good. I have him around ADP of 10, which is actually a bit higher. He's kind of falling and sliding down draft boards, and he's specifically sliding behind my guy who I have at number 5. I have Christian McCaffrey at number 5. Now, the reason being, actually, you know what? I don't have CMC at number 5. I'm changing that right now. I have Devon Achan over Christian McCaffrey. I'm slightly fading Christian McCaffrey, and at the same time, I'm reaching on Devon Achan. Devon Achan can be a Jir Gibbs type player. Why do I say that? He averaged 35 receiving yards per game in 2024. He averaged 5 targets per game in 2024. Now, yes, the rushing numbers, they were down. He averaged 17.6 PPR points per game, and he was the RB6 in those, point per game basis. Now, the thing I like here, 17.6 PPR points per game, it's pretty good. And he had a very, very low touchdown per game rate, 0.4 touchdowns per game, compared to Jir Gibbs, who was over double that. If we see positive touchdown improvement with Devon Achan, which we can, because if Tua is healthy, again, Tua was out last year, and Devon Achan played all 17 games, and he was still the RB6. Devon Achan can crush and win your league this year. The amount of dump downs this guy gets, Ollie Gordon, don't care. Jalen Wright being more involved, I don't believe it. Devon Achan will return you value. I actually have him as my RB5 right after Ashton Genty. Now, obviously, that leaves number 6, who you're all going to say is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, in a best ball format, bump him up. In a best ball format, I could see him going as high as RB number 2. I'm still taking Saquon and RB1 no matter what. I could see Christian McCaffrey going over Bijan, over Jir Gibbs in a best ball format. I would not recommend that. In best ball, I would have CMC as my RB number 4, ahead of Genty and ahead of Achan, just because of the upside, right? But in a redraft league, a lot of redraft leagues, they have punishments, and also you're playing for fun and not actually competing to win the tournament. Christian McCaffrey gives you an insane ceiling. This guy was the RB1, RB2, RB4, RB1, RB2, RB3. Every single those are the years that he was healthy. Those were his finishes. So this guy will win you your league. He averages 25 or more points per game when he's healthy. So the upside is there. The downside is also there, right? So the law of averages, what goes down must come up. I know obviously it's the opposite, but CMC can return value in best ball. He can win your league in fantasy, in redraft leagues. I personally am probably going to be dodging him in my redraft leagues because I don't want to get heckled. Christian McCaffrey, if you're wrong, you're getting heckled, buddy. I don't care. Garendo, trust me, I had Garendo last year. He's a bum. It doesn't matter if you have the 49ers handcuff. If you invest in Christian McCaffrey and he's hurt, you're getting scammed, buddy. You're done. So he's my RB number 6. RB number 7, big man, Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry, the sheep are pretty aggressive in ranking him. They have him around ADP 18, which is actually kind of where I would put him. They actually, they're kind of fading Derrick Henry. They have Derrick Henry on ESPN behind Jonathan Taylor, behind Josh Jacobs, which I think is a little bit foolish. I actually have, Josh Jacobs and JT below another guy as well. But Derrick Henry had a very good 2024, the best year of his career. He is 31 years old, and he's still RB4 with 19.8 PPR points per game. He had 0.9 touchdowns per game. Now, he's not involved at all as a receiver, 1.3 targets per game. I think Derrick Henry is going to be slightly worse this year. But even a Derrick Henry that's slightly worse, all right, he goes from 18 PPR points per game down to 17. I think that's something you can live with. I think Derrick Henry still should be, he's going to be obviously heavily involved in that Ravens offense, and the touchdown numbers, he can win you any single week, which is why I have Derrick Henry coming in right here as my RB number 7. RB number 8, my running back number 8 is going to be none other than Jonathan Taylor. So I actually lied. For a second there, the sheep have somebody ahead of Jonathan Taylor and Jacobs. I don't. Jonathan Taylor is currently number 25 on best ball in ADP. In 2024, Jonathan Taylor played 14 games. He was the RB7, 17.6 PPR points per game. Now, in 2021, this guy was very, very consistent. He played all the games. He was RB6 in 2020, RB2 in his second year in the league. Since then, Jonathan Taylor has had health concerns, but he is going to give you about 5 yards, give or take, in yards per attempt. So that's not a bad number. 5 yards per attempt rushing the football, those are good numbers. he still averaged around 0.75, 0.8 touchdowns per game, which is a good number as well in terms of, how many times you're going to score per game, because that's going to be 4 or 6 points in your lineup when he scores, depending on your league structure. Now, the negative here is that he was less involved as a receiving back. DJ Giddens does have a good prospect profile, so DJ Giddens could be a bit of a pest. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to be just fine. I actually like Jonathan Taylor as a running back sliding down draft boards, but you do have to keep in mind, there's probably going to be some receivers going alongside Jonathan Taylor that might be a bit more enticing. My running back number 9 is none other than Josh Jacobs. I think it's kind of a toss-up between Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor. The thing that kind of gave me the lean over Jonathan Taylor, or for Jonathan Taylor over Jacobs, is I guess how Jonathan Taylor is a year younger in terms of freshness coming into the league. Josh Jacobs also, he's also been somebody that consistently misses time. 2024 and 2022 were the only seasons this guy's played all 17 games. And Josh Jacobs had 17.2 PPR points per game in 2024, slightly less than Jonathan Taylor. But Jacobs is actually going to be a bit more involved as a receiving back in this Packers offense, which is something that's going to be pretty good. You can also say that the Packers offense it's going to be better and score more red zone opportunities for Josh Jacobs this season. So I can see the argument to bump Josh Jacobs ahead of Jonathan Taylor. If you want to do it, go ahead. In my eyes, they're kind of a wash. Next guy on the list, coming in at number 10, is Bucky Irving. Now, Bucky Irving is actually a lot of people's RB number 8 ranked. I'm kind of fading him. Why? If you told me, give me somebody, if you're in a best ball draft, you're late in the draft, you need a running back that's going to get you points, go Rachaad White. Rachaad White still will have a good share of third down snaps. Rachaad White still will be involved in the receiving game. Rachaad White will even get some goal line looks, right? So there's a pest in this Buccaneer backfield. Bucky Irving had 14.4 PPR points per game. He was the RB19. Why is the RB19 now, projected out as the RB number 8? I understand in Dynasty, this guy has all the upside in the world. I understand he had a strong finish to the season, averaging about, 17, 16 points per week. He had 2 27-point games, week 12 and week 13 versus the worst teams in the league of New York and Carolina. I'm a little bit out on the Bucky Irving hype, right? Rachaad White is still there, and as long as Rachaad White is still there, it's going to definitely cap his upside, which is why I have him as the RB number 10. RB11 is none other than Kyron Williams. Now, Kyron Williams does project out as somebody that will kind of be a league winner. If he's going behind Bucky Irving, the reason I like Kyron Williams, Bucky Irving, what did he average? Bucky Irving averaged 2.8 receptions per game. Kyron Williams averaged 3 receptions per game, and the year prior, he averaged 4. So, actually, hold on. That was one. I'm not even looking at the right thing. Kyron Williams averaged, only 2. So that's a bit concerning, actually. So Kyron Williams might have been less involved than I actually thought as a receiver in 2024. But looking at 2023, Kyron Williams did average 4 targets per game. He did average 3 receptions per game. I think Kyron Williams could get even more involved in this Rams receiving game. Jarquez Hunter comes in. I'm not worried about Jarquez Hunter immediately taking from Kyron Williams. Again, they're currently in the process of negotiating with Kyron Williams a new contract. So whenever that gets inked, I think Kyron Williams will be this Rams future running back for the next at least 3 seasons. So in Dynasty, I think you're safe with him. And, he did have 21 points per game in 2023. A little bit down in 24 with 17. You bring in Devontae Adams. You bring in, a healthy Puka Nacua because he missed time in 2024. This Rams offense is going to be better. And that's going to also lead to more opportunities for Kyron Williams, who averages 1 touchdown per game. Don't forget this guy had a touchdown streak of 8 games last season. So he's very, very good. Next name up is going to be number 12, and it's Chase Brown. Now, Chase Brown, again, maybe a little bit fading him compared to the media. He averaged 3 receptions per game, 3.5. Those are pretty good numbers. He played 65% of the snaps. The reason I'm slightly fading him is because I think Taj Brooks could take some third down looks. Taj Brooks is a bit more of a receiving back. And you have Zach Moss, and allegedly Zach Moss is finally going to be healthy, which I'll see it when I believe it. But Chase Brown did, have 16 PPR points per game in 2024, and it was a true breakout season for Chase Brown. He showed that he could handle a full workload as a running back. Next name up is James Cook. I'm actually a bit aggressively ranking James Cook. I have James Cook ahead of guys like Amari Hampton, ahead of guys like Alvin Kamara. Reason being, James Cook, he averaged 1 touchdown per game in 2024. Again, in 2022 and 2023, this guy had the worst touchdown numbers you'll ever see. Now, maybe his rushing metrics were slightly worse. His receiving metrics, he was definitely less involved as a receiver, but his touchdowns per game went from 0.1 to 1. a 10-time improvement. He was more involved in the red zone, which led to 16.7 PPR points per game. Yes, you should worry about touchdown regression. If that number comes down, obviously James Cook PPR points per game goes down. James Cook averaged 63 rushing yards per game. James Cook averaged 16 receiving yards per game. Ty Johnson's a bit of a pest. Ray Davis is a bit of a pest. I still project James Cook to get, over potentially 55% of the snaps. In 2024, he only had 49% of the snaps. In 2023, he had 55%. James Cook is going to want to get paid. I think that they're going to give James Cook a bit more of an opportunity, a bit more of the snap count this season. Maybe we'll get closer to that 60 range, and then James Cook can return good value. Next name on my list. Again, these are the best running back rankings out there. We have Bree Hall. So Bree Hall is pretty low on some people's draft boards. This is a guy you can, win your if you're looking at ESPN. Where does ESPN have Bree Hall rank? They have him scroll down. They have him at number 51. They have Bree Hall as the RB20. I have him as the RB13 or whatever we're at right now. Bree Hall is ranked as RB20, and he's never finished worse than RB17. He's played 3 seasons. RB7 finish, RB6 finish, and RB17 finish most recent season. This is what I like to call recency bias. Okay, he was RB17 last year. Maybe he screwed you over. We're gonna rank him less than what he actually finished. It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. If you draft him on ESPN as RB20, it's not. He's going to be better than RB20, right? So I really do like the Bree Hall currently ranking on ADP. If you're in a redraft league this year and Bree Hall is available to you in round 4. Go ahead and take him ahead of ADP because in round 4, he will be the best selection you make. Even in round 3, I do like Bree Hall. He's going at, the big middle or end of round 3 in best ball drafts, and there's a big reason for that. I think Bree Hall can be very good. I don't care about Isaiah Davis. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about Braylon Allen being more involved. They're lying to you. So that's why Bree Hall is my number 14. Number 15 is Joe Mixon. Now, do I maybe slide Joe Mixon down a little bit? Again, this was actually my ranking before we had the news about the pest coming into Houston. Obviously you bring in Nick Chubb. Does that, limit Joe Mixon? I think it definitely could. But Joe Mixon does have to be somebody that is going to be high on my board. He is still number 14 on my board. Maybe you bump him down a little bit. I would probably put him behind Kamara, who we'll talk about here soon. But Joe Mixon did still have 17 PPR points per game in 2024. We do, project out consistently that Joe Mixon will return about 15, 16 points per game. So this just feels like a safe pick. You're not really chasing the highest upside, but it is something that is a bit safe. Now, there's a couple of things I have to change with my rankings right here. We're going to skip on somebody, and we're going to go to the next name that I think should be here. At number 15, I am going to put Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, the receiving work alone, 6.4 targets per game, 39 receiving yards per game, 5 receptions per game, and, he's going to give you touchdowns. Alvin Kamara with one of the worst offenses in the league, with one of the worst quarterbacks, is actually a good thing. Alvin Kamara will get a lot of dump downs, a lot of looks from the quarterback, and Alvin Kamara will return value. I love him a lot. I'm taking him as much as I possibly can. In best ball, he's ADP of 45. That is something you're going to want to be all over. I have him as RB15 just because I don't want, I'm trying to, there's definitely guys ahead of him that are better. I'd put him ahead of Mixon. I put him at RB14. I would probably take Kamara over James Cook. I think Kamara can outscore Bucky Irving. That is in the realm of possibilities for Kamara, who averaged 19 points per game in 2024. And he averaged, don't forget, in 2020, he averaged 25 points per game. Now, Kamara does have health concerns. Obviously, Kendrick Miller's healthy. They bring in Devon Achan. There is concerns about that stuff. But Kamara does still project out to be a true RB1. Next name up, we are going to go with the safe pick of Kenneth Walker. I don't want to bump Kenneth Walker too far down my rankings, even though I am fading him right here. The reason Kenneth Walker I'm fading is because in 2022 and 2023, he only played 15 games. And then 2024, he did average 16 points per game, but he only played 11 games. Health is a concern here. The Seattle offense potentially could regress without DK Metcalf. You bring in a new quarterback. There's some unknowns. We've seen Charbonnet. Charbonnet is a decent running back. What if they give him some more of the work, right? So I think that was my RB16. Heading to RB17, I'm putting Amari Hampton. It's enough, right? Amari Hampton, he could potentially be in the top 8, top 9, top 10 guys immediately. The reason he's not is because of Najee Harris. Najee Harris will be taking a lot of the work early in the season. But as the season goes on, you would expect Amari Hampton to obviously build up on that role, which is why I like him as my RB16, 17, whatever we just said. The thing about this, Najee Harris has not missed a game in his career, basically. Najee Harris doesn't miss time, which does hurt Amari Hampton's stock. Najee will be a thorn in the side, is what I'm predicting. Next name is Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard, they bring in Rico Dowdle. Now, I'm actually concerned about Rico Dowdle having a bigger role than people expect. I think Rico Dowdle is a very good best ball pick. He's currently around like ADP of like 160. Now, the thing about it is Rico Dowdle only got paid $2.7 million contract for 1 year. That's backup money. So Chuba in 2024 broke out. He had 16 points per game, 77% of the snaps. We know he's probably not going to miss too much time. And as the RB1, if he still has 77% of snaps, which maybe it comes down to 70%, I still think Chuba is going to be around 16 points per game. I think his touchdown numbers could improve with a better Bryce Young, Bryce Young rebound, Ted McMillan offense this season. So I'm kind of drafting Chuba Hubbard in a lot of best ball drafts because I think he's a good value compared to the wide receivers he's currently going around. I'm going to give you boys 2 final names, and the final 2 guys are James Conner and Trayvon Henderson. And then I think there's a bit of a tier drop off at running back, right? But James Conner, as long as he stays healthy, James Conner can be somebody that is putting up RB1 numbers every single week. He's going to get goal line looks. He's going to be there for all the receiving work. Trey Benson, heading into his second year, he was kind of a bust. Like, people expected Trey Benson to be good because James Conner would miss time. James Conner didn't miss time, which was actually a bit of a surprise. Again, James Conner is not necessarily the best talent, but he has a lot of opportunity, a lot of volume, projects out to see a lot of volume, so I like him. Trayvon Henderson, I really like the receiving upside with Trayvon Henderson, which actually is why I have him at number RB20 behind James Conner. And a couple honorable mentions, I do like DeAndre Swift. I do like Tony Pollard this year. I actually have them ranked around like 24, 25. I just thought I'd give you guys their names because they are very good best ball values currently. Those are the top 20 RB rankings. Let me know how I did. Let me know, who did I miss? Smash like, please like and subscribe, boys, if you want to see more. Peace.